live, yo. Display brightness. Oh, come on, please don't stop. Alhamdulillah wahdahu wassalatu wassalamu ala man la nabiyya ba'dahu wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man tamassaka bi sunnatihi ila yawm ad-din wa sallama tasliman kathira amma ba'd. As we continue in the explanation of this tremendous treatise entitled Shaykh al-Fatwa al-Hamawiyyah al-Kubra by the great Imam Abu al-Abbas Taqiyuddin Ahmad ibn Abd al-Halim ibn Abd al-Salam ibn Taymiyyah al-Harrani al-Dimashqi al-Numayri, the one who died 728 after the migration of our Prophet ﷺ. We will continue in the chapter discussing the Aqidah of Abu Hanifa. With the time now 7:08 p.m. Thursday, October the 27th, 2022, which is Muwafiq, who agrees on the Islamic calendar or Islamic date, which is now the 23rd of Rabi' al-Thani. Technically, but this is the evening of Jumu'ah, of Friday, the year 1444, after the migration of our Prophet ﷺ. We were continuing in the affair of Abu Hanifa, where Shaykh al-Islam brings in this tremendous treatise, establishing all types of proofs against those who come with ideologies that are in contrast, that are in opposition to what the Message of Allah ﷺ was upon, and the companions and the tabi'een, and those who followed the tabi'een, and those scholars that came after. As we know, Abu Hanifa, from those people he reached, they say that he actually reached some of the Sahaba. From them was Anas ibn Malik. So he lived close to the virtuous centuries that the Messenger of Allah praised. That he lived close to those virtuous times that the Messenger of Allah ﷺ gave that great praise. Where he said, خَيْرُ النَّاسِ قَرْنِي, the best of my people, the best of people is my generation. ثُمَّ الَّذِينَ يَلُونَهُمْ ثُمَّ الَّذِينَ يَلُونَهُمْ, then those who come after them, then those who come after them. So Abu Hanifa, as we know, lived during that time, to those virtuous generations. As we said, some of them narrate that Abu Hanifa did actually reach some of the Sahaba. They say he reached Anas ibn Malik, but we know without a shadow of a doubt that he did reach the Tabi'een. So he lived during a very virtuous time. So he was refuting the Qadariyah. So you'll find that his book entitled Al-Fiqh Al-Akbar, the greatest fiqh, he was refuting the Qadariyah. This is where we stopped at last class. Like we were explaining how the Qadariyah, how it emerged and the deviations. Because we didn't want to go too much in detail about this affair, but we wanted to touch on just to remind ourselves, and for those who already know this information, then it is a good reminder and review for them. You'll find that, as we mentioned just quickly, that the affairs pertaining to the Qadr, like we said, you will have two groups that are on two opposites of extremes. The first one, as we talked about yesterday, we said that they're the creed or the deviated creed of those who negated the Qadr, meaning they negated Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, His previous knowledge and comprehensible knowledge of everything. They negated it, that Allah did not have knowledge of affairs until they actually happened. But that was from the affairs of what happened during the time of the Sahaba. We'll find that Abdullah bin Umar and Abdullah bin Abbas and other than them from the Sahaba who were very stern against this group. Because this type of group were the extremists of those who negated the divine decree of Allah. They were considered from what, everyone? From the extremists, from the ghula. where they negated Allah's knowledge of affairs until they happen. And they also negated the affair pertaining that everything is written down, that everything is in a preserved tablet. They negated that also. Until you'll find the narrations, which that narration is pertaining to what, everyone? In a refutation against the Qadariyah. Anyone know? The narration was pertaining to the Hadith of Jibreel. If you look into the Hadith Jibreel, if you look to the chains in the actual story of how the Hadith was narrated, it was pertaining to those who negated the Qadr. If it goes back to Sahih Muslim, if you return back to Sahih Muslim, of those great Salaf that came to them and asked Abdullah bin Umar concerning the Qadr, until he started to narrate the narrations of Hadith Jibreel. But anyway, that's not the time for us to go into it. But a lot of people don't know, and a lot of Muslims don't know, that a lot of Muslims read Hadith Jibreel, but they don't know the reason of why the Hadith even was narrated in the story that was behind it. It wasn't just the fact that Jibreel came, but the story of why it was narrated was a refutation against those who rejected the divine decree of Allah Ta'ala. And they were bringing it in the occasion that the belief, brothers and sisters, of the message of Allah ﷺ and the belief of Jibreel, the belief of Angel Jibreel. What was his belief? When the message of Allah kept mentioning, what is Islam? He asked, what is Islam? What is Iman? So the message of Allah would answer, and what would Jibreel say? Sadaqt. You spoke the truth. Meaning your information is on point. Meaning that is the correct belief. That is the belief of the angels, and we what? Are with that belief. That belief that you're upon, about the Qadr, and all those affairs of the belief of the angels, and the unseen, and that Allah deserves to be worshipped alone, and the affairs pertaining to the books, and the prophets, and the messengers, and the belief in the divine decree, the good of it, and the what? And the evil of it. Until Jibreel said what? Sadaqt. You spoke the truth. Which is to let you know that Jibreel even confirmed that is the proper aqidah of a Muslim. Angel Jibreel, he's entrusted for what, everyone? He's entrusted to bring down revelation, but the ulama say a specific fa'idah about Angel Jibreel. They say he is responsible for the lives, or the giving life to the hearts by revelation. The Angel Jibreel was what? He was responsible for giving life to the hearts. What gives life to the hearts, everyone? Wahy, revelation. Israfil, angel. Mikael was responsible for giving life to what? To the lands. He was responsible for giving life to the lands in regards to the rain being sent down and the vegetation and the agriculture coming forth. And some of them say that Israfil, depending on those who say that the narration is Israfil, but those who say it's Sahih, they say he's responsible for giving life once the lives and the dunya is over, for when the day of resurrection commences. So those affairs that we've said, everyone, is pertaining to Hadith Jibreel. The point of the matter, why I wanted to mention that point, is that Angel Jibreel confirmed that the belief in the Qadr of Allah Ta'ala is what? Is from those affairs that are binding, and not only that, but he even confirmed it. Angel Jibreel confirmed it. It said the belief of the Qadr, the belief of the divine decree of Allah Ta'ala. Meaning, the divine decree of Allah, number one, which starts with what, everyone? The previous knowledge of Allah, that Allah Ta'ala has knowledge, his comprehensible, complete knowledge of affairs before they even happened, that Allah Ta'ala had knowledge of it 50,000 years before he created the heavens and the earth. That Allah Ta'ala also, brothers and sisters, Allah's knowledge is not preceded by ignorance. Allah Ta'ala's ilm غير مسبوق بجهل. That is a refutation against the Qadariyah. They found it impossible in their minds for some odd reason that Allah Ta'ala, how can his knowledge not be preceded by ignorance? If you believe that, that affair is considered doubt concerning Allah Ta'ala's completeness. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has full knowledge of everything. And His knowledge is not preceded by ignorance. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's knowledge is not preceded by what, everyone? It's not preceded by ignorance. It's complete, and Allah has full knowledge of everything, whether or not it takes place, or whether or not it does not, or it does, Allah has knowledge of it. Not only that, Allah has knowledge of the affair that if it exists, what would have been the outcome? Allah has perfect knowledge of everything. Whether or not it be brought into existence, whether or not it does not be brought into existence, or be brought into existence, and if it was brought into existence, what the outcome would have been. Anyway, so we return back to the affairs pertaining to the Qadr, as we said. So Abdullah ibn Umar refuted the extremists from the Qadariyah, which is the negation of Allah's knowledge of affairs and that it was written down. The later Qadariyah negated the other levels of the Qadr, which is that Allah Ta'ala does that His will is not over the creation, meaning that the creation create their own actions, and that the will of the creation is in their hands. Meaning they're the dominant ones and the decisions and choices they make, which is true to a certain extent. But the will of the creation, as we mentioned, follows behind the will of the Creator. And that's what they negated. So you make a decision, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you that option to make the decision, even though it follows behind the will of the Creator. So the later Qadariyah negated that affair, which is what everyone? The will of Allah Ta'ala in regards to the decisions and actions of the servants. They negated that Allah does not have any will over that. Rather, the creation creates their own actions, and they're the ones that have their own will. And they also negated the fourth level of the Qadr, which is khalq, which is creation, meaning that the servants create their own actions. So those are the negators of the Qadr on the opposite side of the spectrum. Let's go to another opposite. The person would say, what is the other opposite? The other opposite, everyone, as we mentioned last class, is that the Creator has total dominance over the creation in regards to their decisions. Meaning, in actuality, Allah is the one that did the act, not the creation. So if you committed an evil act, Allah did it. And if you did something uglified or vilified or filthy, Allah did it. You have no choice over the decisions you make. Rather, Allah forced you to do it. Those are people on the opposite side of the spectrum, the opposite side of the extreme, where they say that the actions of the servants were forced upon them, and Allah's will had total dominance until they removed the decisions and the choices from the servants totally, which is also a deviation in the Qadr. As we said, the servant, Allah did give them a choice. But however, the will of the creation follows behind the will of the Creator. وَمَا تَشَاءُونَ إِلَّا أَن يَشَاءَ اللَّهُ. You do not will, unless Allah wills. So the Creator has His will. The creation has its will. You make decisions, and you will reap either the merits of your right ones, or you will reap the repercussions and consequences of your bad ones. Is it clear, everyone? Allah gave you the choice. He gave you the choice, and that's the reason why He created paradise, and that's the reason why He created Hell. He created those two abodes for those who make everyone? Proper decisions. They make proper decisions and they rely on their Lord at the same time. And Allah will give them tawfiq to be increased in those good decisions. But however, as we said, everyone, the will of the creation follows behind the will of the Creator. At the end of the day, Allah He is the one that the determinant factor or the deciding factor returns back to Him after you make the decision. It goes back to Him. And if Allah wants good for a servant, He'll protect them. Certain affairs you will embark upon, Allah might stop it for you. Allah might not grant you tawfiq in that certain affair because it might be bad for you. It might be a reason for your destruction of your dunya and your hereafter. You never know why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in His infinite wisdom allows certain affairs to take place and why He stops certain affairs from taking place. Whether or not you attain certain benefits in your life or whether or not Allah holds it back even though you embarked upon the reasons of attaining it. You do not know. So that is to show what everyone, that the affairs of the qadr, like we said, follows by the will of the creation, as we said, everyone what? Follows behind the will of the creator. But as far as the shaitan himself, it's time for the adhan already. Wow, what did the time go? Excuse me everyone for my lateness. I was in the hospital visiting someone. That's the reason why I was late tonight. I was late tonight for those who are online. I was tardy because I had to visit someone in the hospital. Just excuse me for today. Allah Akbar, Allah Akbar. Allah Akbar, Allah Akbar. Shalom. 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 Allah Akbar, Allah Akbar. اللهم رب هذه الدعوة التامة والصلاة القائمة آت محمد الوسيلة والفضيلة وبعث مقام محمود الذي وعدته. طيب. So we said in regards to the extremists of the Qadariyah, those who negate Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's knowledge, during the time of the Sahaba, they deemed them to be kuffar. Those who were the extremists of the people who deviated the affairs of the divine decree of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. To negate Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's knowledge of affairs and that He only has knowledge of it until it happens is affairs of disbelief. That's considered ghulu. Ghulu in the affairs of the what? Of the qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. However, you'll find that Ibn Uthaymeen, that he mentioned about these people, he says, فَالْغُلَاء يُنْكِرُونَ عِلْمَ اللَّهِ وَقُدْرَتَهُ وَخَلْقَهُ لِأَفْعَالِ الْعِبَادِ وَهَؤُلَاء انقرضوا أو كادوا وغير الغلاة يؤمنون بأن الله عالم بأفعال العباد لكن يمكنون وقوعها بإرادة الله وقدرته وخلقه وهو الذين استقر عليه مذهبهم. That's what he said, شرح الجمعة. Anyway, he said that the affair of the qadr or the qadariyah, he said they are those who negated the divine decree and destiny of Allah from the actions of the servants, meaning that the servants, that they have their own will and intent and ability that is separate, meaning on its own from what Allah intends and from Allah's ability. So the one who manifests this evil statement was an individual, as we said last class, named Ma'bad al-Juhani, as he emerged in the last time, or the last time of the Sahaba, in which they received or learned this statement. You know where they got it from? A Rajul Majusi from Basra, that he was a fire worshipper, mushrik, who was in the area of Basra, which is Iraq currently. So they learned it from a person or an individual who was not Muslim, meaning it was foreign, had no connection with Islam at all. They learned it, and then they broke down into different sects. From amongst them, as we said, the first type was the extremists, where they negated Allah's knowledge and His ability, meaning His will, and that He created the actions of the servants. They negated that. He said that these people have become inqaradu. They became extinct, or they are about to be extinct. What does he mean by that? As I said last class, an actual deviant sect called the Qadariyah, with the actual name of called Qadariyah, does not exist today. However, their ideologies are still present. With who? with the people who are upon the aqidah of i'tizal, meaning mu'tazila. Who are the people who have the aqidah of mu'tazila from the Muslims these days, or from those who ascribe to Islam these days? Who are they? The Rawafid. The Rawafid have the aqidah of the mu'tazila. And what is incorporated inside of their aqidah is the aqidah of the Qadariyah. Is it clear, everyone? So their ideologies are present today from those who are upon the aqidah of the Mu'tazila from the Rawafid, the deviant sect called the Rafidah. The deviant sect called who, everyone? The Rafidah. They are the ones who have adopted the ideologies of the Mu'tazila, and which is incorporated, or what is in it of the deviant ideologies of the Qadariyah. So they still are what, everyone? They still are present today. So don't let anyone try to come and say, oh, those type of ideas or wicked concepts and beliefs, they don't exist these days. You're wasting your time. Yes, they are. They still exist. However, in another name, or under the guise of something else or someone else. From those who ascribe to Islam, from the Rawafid, of what they call the Rafidah. So that's what we mentioned in brief last class. Then we had the opposite side of the spectrum, as we said, where the deviant affair of the qadr, you have to pray here. The deviant affair of the qadr is the opposite side of the spectrum where, as we mentioned, where they say that the action of the servant has been forced. And those affairs are what? Also aglafa. Why? Because in actuality, if you're saying that Allah forced you to do certain affairs, why is there a hellfire? Why is there a paradise? If I'm forced, why am I being punished? And if I was forced, why am I being rewarded? Doesn't make any sense. I have to earn my what? Keep. And earn what Allah has prepared for me of what? Of paradise and its bliss. Meaning that Allah Ta'ala has prepared that for those who earned it. Meaning those who made proper decisions in regards to their religion and affairs as pertaining to obedience of Him and His Messenger. That's the reason why there's a paradise, and that's the reason why there's a what? Hellfire. Meaning, just the mere existence of those two abodes shows that you have your own decision. Otherwise, why would a person end up there? Because you made a decision. Is it clear, everyone? So those who try to say, no, the actions of the servants have been forced, in actuality, it is Allah that does it. A person might ask another question. Does this ideology also exist today? Yes, it does. However, it's used under another title called Kasb al-Ish'ari. Kasb al-Ish'ari. From the Ash'ariyah, who believe that the affairs of the servants have been forced. Meaning, listen to this. The rhetoric that they use in order to trick you, they'll say something such as, for example, they say, you did it metaphorically. You did it metaphorically. But the af'al al-haqiqiyah, the true actions, was done by Allah. So, your mere actions of what you've done is just mere acquisition, metaphorically. It was an acquisition for you. But in actuality, the one who did it is Allah Ta'ala. So that's an affair of the belief of what we're studying now, of the deviant sect called the Jabriyah, where they believe that the servants were forced to do acts. However, they changed the title of it. They call it Kasb Ash'ari, meaning the act you did was an acquisition for yourself metaphorically. But in reality, it is Allah that did it. You understand, everyone? And they bring evidences and proofs to so-called substantiate their claim, which is absolute nonsense that we don't have time to expound or elaborate on. Who is their salaf in this type of wicked belief that the actions have been forced upon everyone? The devil, the shaitan himself. The shaitan himself, he blamed the qadr of Allah in order to excuse himself, in order to remove blame from himself, and he blamed it on Allah. If you look at the ayah which comes in Surah Al-A'raf, in the second page, I forgot which number, I can't remember the number right now, but it's on the second page of Surah Al-A'raf. Shaitan said this, فبما أغريتني لأقعدن لهم صراطك المستقيم ثم لآتينهم من بين أيديهم من خلفهم وعن أيمانهم وعن شمائلهم ولا تجد أكثرهم شاكرين قالوا اخرج منها مذءوما مدحورا لئن تبعك منهم لأملأن جهنم منكم أجمعين. طيب, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talked about the shaitan. He said, because of you misguided me. فَبِمَا أَغْوَيْتَنِي, because of you misleading me and misguiding me. Meaning, I'm removing the blame from myself because it's you that misled me. You're the one that written this for me. You knew this was going to happen. So look at the evil arrogance of the shaitan, of the Iblis. They tried to use the qadr of Allah to say that I was forced, I had no choice in the matter. You knew this affair was going to happen. It was written. So by you misleading me, I will most definitely lurk and wait in their straight path to mislead them. So you'll find that the Iblis had what? Used the qadr of Allah in order to excuse himself. To say in actuality it wasn't me, rather it was you that misled me. So I'm saying that the blame is on you. So those affairs you'll find from the the disrespect rather. The disrespect and the evil and the corrupt belief of Iblis, that he used the qadr of Allah Ta'ala in order to what? In order to exonerate himself. So it shows that the devil, as we said last class, he believes in the existence of Allah, he believes in the rububiyyah of Allah, he believes in the uluhiyyah of Allah, he believes in the asma wa sifat of Allah, and the shaitan believes in the qadr of Allah. You'll find that the devil believes in the qadr of Allah Ta'ala. Based upon this ayah, that they say shaitan, even though he used the ihtijaj of the qadr, even though he used the qadr as an argument, but generally he believed in it. But he just used it in a what? Perverted way, in a misguided way. But generally he believed in it. Is it clear, everyone? So that's what we mentioned in here in regards to Iblis. So those who say that the actions of the servants were forced, this type of deviation in the qadr is called Qadariyya Iblisiyya. It's called Qadariyya, deviation in the qadr, that's of Iblis. Meaning that you're using the qadr of Allah Ta'ala in order to what? Use it as an argument in order to remove the blame from yourself. And saying in actuality, it's not me that did it, Allah did it. You'll find that they use this particular ayah. They'll say, for example, and this is just a side benefit, everyone, do not write this down. There's a verse where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in his book, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in his book, where he says, وَمَا رَمَيْتَ إِذْ رَمَيْتَ وَلَكِنَّ اللَّهَ رَمَى. This is what they use as evidence. You didn't throw, hence when you threw, however Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had thrown, had casted the dirt in the eyes of the mushrikeen. So they used evidence, right? In the book of Allah. You hear the verse that they use? I'll say it again. There's a verse in the book of Allah, they say, وَمَا رَمَيْتَ إِذْ رَمَيْتَ وَلَكِنَّ اللَّهَ رَمَى. So Allah said he did it, to his own messenger. You did not cast the dirt, hence when you threw it, however Allah threw it. Is this the correct? No. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was just merely showing that the affair of what was the miracle that the Messenger of Allah did was from what Allah ta'ala allowed to happen as an affair to show and prove your prophethood. He says, you did not throw when you threw, meaning when you threw the dirt, that was from your act. But the mere isal of the dirt going in the eyes of the mushrikeen, which was an actual miracle, that was from Allah. But you still threw it, where Allah did ascribe the act to the Messenger of Allah. However, Allah allowed the affair to take place of the miracle to allow all the dirt to what? Arrive at the eyes of the mushrikeen to blind them. And you'll find that the great Imam Muhammad al-Jami, he said, now if you want to use this, let's use it then. So he said, does it make sense to say, وَمَا صَلَّيْتَ إِذْ صَلَّيْتَ وَلَكِنَّ اللَّهَ صَلَّى وَمَا صُمْتَ إِذْ صُمْتَ وَلَكِنَّ اللَّهَ صَامَ وَمَا زَكَّيْتَ إِذْ زَكَّيْتَ وَلَكِنَّ اللَّهَ زَكَّى. He said, does that make any sense? He said, you did not pray, hence when you prayed, however Allah prayed. Does that make any sense? You did not fast when you fasted, however Allah fasted. Did that make any sense? No. Did you dare pay zakat when you pay zakat? However Allah pays zakat. Did that make sense? He said, doesn't make any sense. So you understand? So the ayah was specific for what? An event in which the Messenger of Allah had did, when Allah at the same time still ascribed the act to the Messenger of Allah. The only distinction is the miracle aspect of it, which was a sign from Allah in which He allowed the dirt to arrive to the eyes of the mushrikeen all at once. Is it clear, everyone? It was a specific affair. But if you was to apply it now, as they say, it wouldn't make any sense. You did not pray, hence when you prayed, however Allah prayed. Does that make any sense? You didn't fast, hence when you fasted, however Allah fasted. You did not give sadaqah, you didn't give charity when you gave charity, however Allah gave charity. You did not smile, hence when you smiled, however Allah smiled. Does it make any sense? So that's what you'll find in the great Muhammad Imam Jami. He said, how these affairs are what? All considered false. Fine. So those are the affairs of the Qadr that I want to briefly touch on. Let's keep going and I'll read and we'll stop because we're going to pray. Fine. So I'll read the affair of, person would say, as we said last class, how is these affairs prevalent today? We already mentioned of the Aqidah of who? The Rafidah. How they've adopted the creed of who, everyone? The Mu'tazila. And the Mu'tazila has in it, what, everyone? The belief of the Qadariyah. It's there. Is it clear, everyone? Fine. What about Jibreel? As we said, those who believe that the acts were forced upon the servants, he said that still exists today. He says, for example, Shaykh Muhammad Imam Jami elaborates on this. He gives some details. He said, بل هو كالشجرة التي في مهب الريح يتحرك بغير إرادته فهذه العقيدة دخلت على الأشاعرة. He said, the belief of pertaining to the acts being forced upon the servants, where they believe that the acts of the servants are like a tree that's moved or rocked within the blowing of the wind. Meaning that whatever the wind blows, that's what? That's where it goes, where it follows, or that's what it's supposed to be. Meaning that the movements of the servants, that they move like this, without any decision making from themselves. He said this type of belief entered upon the Asha'ira from the Muslims. He said you'll find in which they had tried to come with a type of method in which they called Kasf al-Ash'ari. The acquisition of Ash'ari, where they believe, like we said, you'll find that Ibn al-Qayyim even brings a poetry when he refuted this. He said that doesn't even make any sense. He said the affairs of saying that the acts of the servant are just mere acquisition for them metaphorically, but in actuality, Allah did it. So when you drink a bottle of alcohol, based upon their belief, that's an act of yours metaphorically, meaning that's from your acquisition. But in actuality, Allah is the one that did it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala consumed alcohol. That's the reason why Ibn al-Qayyim put in his poetry, when he refuted them in his Nuniyah, he said about them, he said, "Is غَيْرُ مُتَصَوَّرُ فِي الْأَذْهَانِ." He said, it doesn't make any sense in the mind of anyone who really contemplates on it. It doesn't make any sense. He said, so as if you have an ability that doesn't work. Like you did it, but in actuality it doesn't work. But it did happen metaphorically. All the nonsense you'll find of the people of deviation, brothers and sisters, be happy that Allah bestowed proper guidance upon them. There are thousands of people out here that believe this nonsense. That they were raised upon it and they believe it firmly. And they will probably argue you down in defending it. And it might even escalate to the point of them hurting you over this type of wicked belief. All out of just mere arrogance or just mere what? Or just mere so-called saying or thinking that just because I come from a Muslim background or I come from a Muslim country or I was raised Muslim, I know better than you. Who are you to tell me? To the end of the nonsense that they use to reject the truth and the different types of baseless arguments that they utilize in order to so-called reject the truth. At the end of the day, it's still wrong. Whether or not you come from a Muslim country or come Muslim background or whatever it is, it's still wrong. When you do an act, that act is written against you, or it is written for you as either a reward from Allah or what? Or a consequence from Allah. Why, everyone? Why do the angels write anything down on your scales when you do an act of good and evil? Because they know it's a decision you made. Right or wrong? If the act is written down, then you what? It's written either for you or what? against you. Why? Why all these affairs? For what? What comes to your mind what makes sense is that it was due to your own what? Due by your own choice. You understand, everyone? It's clear. It makes sense. The angels know that we write this down based upon that so-and-so, this is what you intended. You made it your own what? Decision. That's the belief of the angels. The angels believe that you made your own decision. Do the angels believe that the actions are forced? No. They know that you made your own decision. That's why they wrote it down. Either for you or against you. That's why Jibreel said to the Prophet ﷺ, he said, when he talked about the belief in the qadr, Jibreel confirmed it. He said, Sadaqt. You spoke the truth. Is it clear, everyone? Jayyid. Right. So that's what pertaining to what they call the deviant sect, Kasb al-Ash'ari, where it doesn't absolutely make any sense. You'll find that Ibn Qayyim even said in his poetry, Nuniyah, he said that that affair is غَيْرُ مُتَصَوِّرٍ فِي الْأَذْهَانِ. It's something that is not understood in the minds of the people. Meaning, and he started mentioning about طفلة النظام وأحوال أبي هاشم and كسب الأشعري. Three things. He says غير متصور في الأذهان. طفلة, he said كسب الأشعري وأحوال أبي الهاشمي وطفلة النظام. He said three things. He said that doesn't make sense in the minds of the people. He said first is كسب الأشعري and the other is أحوال أبي هاشم. أحوال أبي هاشم. أحوال أبي هاشم, I don't have time to talk about that right now. That's used for the Mu'tazila. The third is طفلة النظام. We gotta stop class right now. طفلة النظام. I'll talk about that later. طفلة النظام. The point of the matter is you'll find that Ibn Qayyim said that doesn't make sense. It's Kasb al-Ash'ari. And I just explained it to everyone. Does it make any sense? You did it metaphorically, but in reality Allah did it. So you drank some alcohol, you did it metaphorically, but Allah did it in actuality. To this day, there are Muslims out there that believe this nonsense. They are under the guise of the Ash'ari, and they teach this in class to certain students. When they feel comfortable to actually say what they want to say, then they spread this poison to the Muslims in order to misguide them. Is it clear, everyone? So that's the Kasb al-Ash'ari, and we'll talk about stop here, inshallah. Any questions about the lesson?
I was just going to say, you said when they feel comfortable with the individual they're telling you. That's right there that they
say is لا ينبغي أن نصرح به في مقام التعليم. He said إلا في مقام التعليم, I think they said. They said it's not befitting that we're frank with it or out with it. I think he said except in the time of teaching. Meaning that there are only certain times when they boastfully will say it. But they believe it. They believe that their actions are forced upon the servants. They believe that. They believe in the affairs of the Jibreel, which is absolute nonsense. Is it clear, everyone? However, they changed the name of it to what they call Kasb al-Ash'ari. Kasb al-Ash'ari.
Are they the ones dancing in the Masjid and stuff like that?
No, those are the Sufis. Those are the Sufis. The Sufis are the ones that dance in the Masjid. Dance and prance in the Masjid. They're the ones that do that, the Sufis. It's embarrassing. How are you going to call somebody to Islam and the person sees that? You'll come in the Masjid and dancing and prancing around like a bunch of fools. Then a person that, like we said, Muslim that wants to embrace Islam, see that nonsense, that would be a reason for them going away from the religion. They say, what's the difference between me and going to the club? Y'all do this in y'all religious facilities? Y'all act like this and do this nonsense? And what's the difference between me and going to the club and doing it? You understand? Absolute nonsense. This stuff is embarrassing. But anyway, may Allah protect us. Any other questions about the class? We've got to stop, everyone. We've got to pray. Anything else? Just biting your jaw. Anything else? Photo.
Why does the Shaitan worship Allah and disobey?
Why did he say it again? What was his question?
Why does Satan worship? And then he disobeyed.
He disobeyed him because of a lot of reasons. Number one is because he uses his opinion or number one, based upon his arrogance. Shaitan was arrogant. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says. Number two, he used an analogy against revelation. Number three, he also used the qadr of Allah. It's not biting me. The qadr of Allah to do that. Number four, he used his opinion or his intellect over submission to revelation. That's all the reasons why Shaitan what? Fell into what he fell into. Is it clear, everyone? So Shaitan used his opinion, he used an analogy, his arrogance, and he even used the qadr. All those affairs which as a result of it, he became from the la'een or al-mal'oon. And I forgot to mention the fifth. Shaitan also used his element of how he was created to look down upon Adam, to use that as a reason for why he thought he was better than him. That's the fifth thing I forgot to mention. Which is a refutation against Muslims who think they're better than someone based upon their skin color, their background, their country, their nationality, to the end of it. Your salaf in that is the devil. Why? Because the devil used his element of how he was created to look down upon Adam. As you found at the ayah, as it says in the Quran, what does it say, everyone? أَنَا خَيْرٌ مِّن خَلَقْتَنِي مِن نَارٍ وَخَلَقْتَهُ مِن طِينٍ. I'm better than him. You created me from fire, and you created him from what? From clay, from dirt. Oh. Is it clear? So use these affairs. And as a result of it, what happened, everyone? Allah cursed them. And expelled them from Jannah, expelled them from the mercy of Allah until he became mal'oon, until he became the curse. Those affairs are pertaining whether or not he was in Jannah or not, that's a long ikhtilaf that I have no time to get into right now. It's a long ikhtilaf that Ibn Qayyim mentions. Was Shaitan in paradise? Was he in paradise? Those affairs I don't have time to speak about, not now. We have to end the class. طيب تفضل.
The question I had you answer to me.
هذا ليس محل البسط, as they say.
Right. And someone took the book and I wrote it down. When you were explaining the fee, and I think it was in Surah
For the lot I asked.
about Allah being above the heavens.
Uh-huh.
And the fee was showing because you
Fee, the word proposition fee in the Arabic language,
right.
initially, in its origin it means in, right?
Right.
However, fee can also mean above, depending on the context.
That's what it was.
Fee can mean ala. A person would say we should delay. Delay is it's in the Quran. Where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talked about what happened with Fir'aun. With Fir'aun, what did he say to the people who disobeyed him from the Sahara? What did he say to them? وَلَا أُصَلِّبَنَّكُمْ فِي جُذُوعِ النَّخْلِ. That will make sure you are crucified. Notice he used fee in the date palm. Didn't mean that he was literally going to take them, stuff them inside the date palm. No, it meant where? Upon it. Upon it. صَلِّبَنَّكُمْ فِي جُذُوعِ النَّخْلِ. Didn't mean that he was going to literally take them, stuff them inside the wood. No, nobody understands that, do they? They mean that based upon the context that the preposition fi can mean what? Adam. It can mean above. It can mean upon. So he literally meant that he was going to take them and put them upon what? The date palm and what? Crucify them. So that's to let you know that the preposition fi can mean what? Based upon the context, what it can mean, everyone? It can mean above or upon or above, depending on the context of how it's used. Because Allah revealed a verse concerning Pharaoh when he said about those who disobeyed him when he commanded them with the magic from the Sahara, from the magicians who disobeyed him, with the sorcerers. He said, I will most definitely crucify you fi judu'i nakhl, in the date palm. But nobody understands here in this context that it means inside of it. What do they understand it to mean, what, everyone? Upon it. Right? Right or wrong? There's no idiot except that these people who don't understand the context of affairs, except that they say, no, see, it means he stuffed them inside the stick. Nobody understands that. Another ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says this, فَسِيرُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ فَسِيرُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ Traverse fil ard. Does it mean inside? Take a shovel, dirt yourself in the dirt. Or does it mean above it and traverse within the land? What does it mean? Upon it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in his book, فَسِيرُوا fil ard. Traverse in the earth. Based upon these idiots, what they believe, they think that what? Fi means literally what? Take it, dig yourself a dirt and go in the earth and go without the land. No. Anybody that understands knows that it means what? Above the earth. Above it and traverse within it. Was to let you know that the preposition fi can mean what? Above it. Above. Upon.
I didn't understand that.
Is it clear, everyone? Is it clear or not? Praise the Lord for proper guidance. Because if you were upon bid'ah, it would be comical. If you, literally, it would be like, are you really believe that? Really? Allah did that? Oh no, it's not, you didn't do it, you did it metaphorically. However, Allah did it. So when I drink, Allah did it? Yeah, in actuality, Allah did it. You'd be like, these people crazy. You lost your mind. Yeah, Allah did it. You serious? You understand? As they say, these are the affairs that are mubkin, and mudhik, fi an al-wahid. It brings tears to your eyes and it's funny at the same time. You understand? Like, we'll stop it. صلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. Because any Muslim that hears this nonsense, that brings Islam, and they hear that, they're gonna be like, what? It's a reason for taking people outside the fold of Islam. You can't bring Muslims to the fold of Islam believing this nonsense. The only people that will be able to teach a person to embrace Islam and remain firm in it is the people of Sunnah. That's it. Other than that, these people, if you bring a person to embrace Islam and hear this nonsense, there could be a reason for them leaving Islam. What kind of nonsense is that? Allah's not above the heavens. He's everywhere. Even in your feces in the bathroom? Huh? That's confusing. Oh, Allah doesn't have any names and attributes. Allah doesn't have none of that. Allah doesn't have, Allah, when you do an act, He did it in actuality. What? When a person hears that, what would that cause doubt? What? That doesn't make any sense. You understand? So that's from the shum. That is from the evil consequences of what? Bid'ah. It brings doubt. If you don't believe Allah is above, I have no doubt in my mind that brings doubt. It just brings doubt. It doesn't bring you pain. It brings doubt to yourself. When you worship the dead, worshiping graves, worshiping people, worshiping saints, those people are the majority of them are the ones who are prone to what? Deviate from the religion. They don't have no surety. They have no surety of Tawheed, Aqidah, and who they're worshiping. If you don't have any surety of who you're worshiping, how do you think you're going to have stability in a religion? Is it clear? I'm going to stop here. Are you ready to pray?
Yes.
وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى اله وصحبه